Good afternoon, everybody. This is DIPANJAN. Maybe a quick introduction. I'm a co-founder and partner at a firm called Fireside Ventures. So we're early stage investors in consumer and consumer health companies. And maybe we can do a quick intro of the esteemed panel we have, and we can then jump into some of the hopefully not stressful, topics which we have set out for ourselves. Shivam?
This is working. I'm SHIVAM, HINGORANI. I run a company called Ace Blend. We make nutraceutical supplements for lifestyle solutions.
Hi everyone, I'm SALONI ANAND, co-founder Traya. Traya is a holistic hair loss solution company. We are a 100% online platform where we mix Ayurveda, allopathy and nutrition to help people grow their hair back.
Hi, my name is Rahul. I lead the efforts on investing in pharmaceutical, healthcare, and nutrition side of it at a firm called Creador. It's a India and Southeast Asia focused private equity fund with $3 billion of assets under management.
Thank you, Shivam, Saloni, and Rahul, and thanks, Amit, for having us all here. And I'll maybe kickstart the context for this session, and even jump into some of the key questions and the areas of brainstorming. But as a fund and as an investor into the whole consumer health space, we've seen this whole platformization of health and and nutraceutical in general grow over the last 6-7 years. And the question as investors we always had is this the market, is it a market big enough? Is our consumers in India consuming nutraceutical and health products like what we have seen in the West, right? And therefore you will see there are many high quality pharma and manufacturing companies in India, but not many consumer brands and consumer platforms directly solving for the consumer in India, right? And that has been the divergence what has led up to this space. But there are very fundamental dynamics which is changing in India, right? India, as GDP per capita of India rises, India is a consumption led economy, and once the GDP crosses $2,500 the need state and the discretionary spends on various aspects starts to happen. If in a country like US, 18% of the GDP is spent on health, right? That equivalent number in India is about 4%, right? And that is also mostly primary health and not so much preventive health. We see this number of 4% growing to something like 7 to 8% in the next 5 years. And if you take a leap forward to India at 2030, India is going to be a 5-6 trillion economy. It's already a 4 trillion economy. 60% is consumption led, and within that consumption, the consumption on health, primary, secondary, including preventive, nutraceutical, all put together will be a very large, meaningful number. And we are estimating this whole industry to be several north of 100 billion plus. But most important for us, and that's the brings us to the topic today, that what would constitute this market, what would constitute large companies and businesses built here. Will there be companies similar to what has played out in the US? Will it be different? Will it be unique? And I think that brings us to the topic here. We have a very different set of three panelists. So we have two of us who are investors, but different side and spectrum. So we invest in early stage. Rahul comes in at later stage. Saloni, runs Traya, which is a direct-to-consumer health platform, right? So you can't call it necessarily a Nutra company, but it's a health solution platform. And Shivam runs Ace Blend, which is a new age nutraceutical brand. Now, the question really, and then we will jump into it quickly, that given the diversity of what the Indian consumers are, what is the playbook for building new age health companies? And we have seen as a fund that the playbooks are very different for different type of companies, and without me talking about the macro much, but let me put the first question to Saloni, that maybe a little brief about Traya, but more importantly, as you have seen the journey as a founder of a health solution company, what's the journey was the journey like, and what is the playbook you have learned and which you can share with the audience here, and what takes Traya to become as large as what it is today?
Yeah, so when we started Traya, it was COVID, and we went out with a very clear vision that we are here to grow hair. And really get the best efficacy out where there are thousands of products out there in the hair care space. We said we're not hair care, we are going to treat hair and genuinely grow hair. So when we started with that mission, we said, hey, we need to chase efficacy and not the market. And we realized that our efficacy only worked if there were doctors in the journey, there was customization in the journey, there was holisticness, which means there's no one product magically that can grow hair. That you need something from Ayurveda, something from allopathy, something from nutrition. You need to change your diet, your lifestyle to be really make a difference to your hair. And we realized that it's 10-day oil that can grow hair is not honesty. It's what we were fighting against. It's a 5 to 6 month process to really make a change in your body and make a visible change in your hair. So we said, hey, we are going to solve all of this and we are going to go out and sell a regime. And the first thing we were told was it's not possible because you can sell a product, go to a marketplace and launch. That's what D2C brands do. And we said, there's no point doing that because we don't want to be another shampoo oil company. We are here to treat something. We're here to fill that gap of efficacy. So the first sort of piece that worked for us was, considering it was COVID, was to, I'll say the point number one in the playbook, go digital. And we realized that today the consumer thinks that they need just oil and shampoo, is not ready to probably pop supplements to grow hair. But end of the day, what the consumer wants is to grow their hair if it's safe. So we led an education-led journey to really create that awareness on the fact that it's possible, the fact that what you've been taking so far, applying external products, it's not enough and you need something internal. And that education-led journey on digital helped us really change belief systems. I remember meeting a very senior person in an FMCG firm while I was starting Traya, and he said, nobody is going to pop supplements in India. I'm so happy to share that here because Traya is a hair company that gives Ayurveda and nutraceuticals in the regime, and people are eating that. So one is go digital, education-led journey. Number two, go tech. We have a consumer app, and for the first 3 years at Traya, I did not launch an app thinking, would Indians download an app for a hair solution? Maybe a personal bias, but I was completely wrong. We launched it in 2023, and in 3 months, 70% of Traya consumers were on the Traya app. 60% of acquisition today happens on the app. So people download the app. There's better retention, better customer experience. And when I say Indians, Traya is not a city brand. 80% of Traya consumers are in tier 2, 3, 4 and beyond. So India may not be able to speak English. An average Traya consumer cannot speak fluent English, but they can download the Traya app and do everything in English in the Traya app. So don't go tech, number two. Number three, break the rules. This pharma and this consumer and this consulting online, and we were told, who are you? Are you a product company? Are you a service company? We don't know where to fit you. I think find the sweet gap. You could be selling high efficacy pharma products with a wrap of consumer branding around it. Find your sweet spot, break the rule, and you will find a gap in the market that the consumer finally relates to, and really sort of build a category rather than fit into an existing sort of playbook that's there.
Fascinating, Saloni. I still remember. I must mention that when we are actually, by the way, investors in Traya, and when we were having our early conversations, one of the points we said that if Traya has to scale, how many people would end up being in the company, and will you be a call center company, calling people on hair solutions? But it's actually tech was the answer, and I think that's a great learning from how you can actually sense a consumer problem and then solve it using technology. That's a great learning. And I will come back to the tech part a little bit more in detail, but let me switch to Shivam. Shivam, of course, now nobody's questioning whether they should pop nutraceutical. I think that journey of India getting to where staying healthy, living healthy has become a norm and become a much more accepted practice. But even within that, it's a wide area, right? And there are different type of consumers. There are these light sufferers, heavy sufferers, somebody looking for fitness, somebody is okay with light fitness. So as a young Nutra brand, what are some of the trends which you are seeing? Like, what are you seeing people searching for? What kind of regime they are building? And this is again, unlike Traya, it's not a problem solution statement. Like it's so some overall market sense on where India, what is India consuming today?
Thank you, Dipanjan. Okay, so I think we're at the cusp of something absolutely incredible in India right now. And I think this is led by something more visceral, right, in the way we're all thinking as a population, especially in the millennials and the Gen Zs. Um, that thought process is that social justification is going beyond the brands that you wear and it's becoming about how you look, how you feel, how's your sleep score, how's your recovery score, right? That's becoming a real conversation today, which is fueling this entire industry like never before. The entire Nutra space was very niche just a few years ago, right? It was athletes, early adopters that were using it. That's transformed, right? You have now parents, grandparents, professionals, all seeking options as opposed to falling prey to fear mongering. It's become, hey, what do I do for better sleep, for a sharper mind, for better recovery? These are very key areas that we're focusing on. Um, and because of this demand and this entire exercise becoming about a human being's social justification, people are looking for reliable sources. They're looking for very trusted companies to, because, this is something you induce. It's something that starts to define your health. Um, and that's where the responsibility increases, right, in terms of ethics and what you provide. But yes, the whole industry is going from vague promises to functional outcomes, stronger solutions because of the demand increasing. So if you can kind of match the pace of the demand, I think you can really become a leader and make the most of this time. So while I think the potential is incredible, the responsibility also increases of the people providing these solutions.
And I think as a as you rightly mentioned, functional benefits, the efficacy is become so key, and across areas of sleep, hair, skin, it's becoming like it's a large play. But let me connect that back now, going back to Rahul. So we heard from Traya and Saloni on how to build, and then there's of course Shiva mentioned there is no opportunity, there's no end to what to build, right? Now, when you tie this back to as an investor, and we see this on the early side, and you say this on the latest side, what happens when a private equity investor comes into a company which is scaled up to a certain point of time, let's say Traya or any such company? The question which we still hear is, okay, is the TAM still big enough? What do you look for? So, what does a good product market fit for a late stage large health company, given that there are no examples of that today, and there may be some global examples in the US, but there are no examples of what could Traya become tomorrow, right? What could Ace Blend become tomorrow? So how, as investors in the later side, for early stage investors like us, it's still okay because we are taking that early bet on innovation, early bet on what can break out. Even if the companies go and scale up to a certain point, early investors still make money. But let's say for really this whole equation and the whole ecosystem to grow, you would need companies which are legacy, right? And how do you look at legacy brands in this space?
I think for us, health is all about building resilient body. It's not at all a unidimensional view to say I should have that much protein. It's not about unidimensional view that I should have that much vitamin supplement. It's about building not the best looking or best fit body optically, but the most resilient body. And that's really encapsulates everything we look at when we look at product market fit. I think US is probably not a very great, or Western market is probably not a very great example for us as we look forward as to what a player can become, because the customer dynamic is just very different. I mean, there's so many consumer categories that have emerged in India which are not there in the US at all, right? Despite consumer being time starved on both sides of the world. So from our perspective, really two things matter. Is the need today big enough? Even if it's a latent demand, is it big enough? Is sleep disorder, for example, a big enough problem in India? I think it's a big problem in India. Is anyone addressing it? Probably no. Then then it comes down to the efficacy and the how faster you can convince a customer and how fast a consumer can see the efficacy. That's really important for us because patient compliance as a is comes down exponentially, right, with every passing day. So for us, not only efficacy but also really can customer feel it, live it, believe it. And then thereafter, are there any unintended side effects of the product which people in India generally don't talk about at all? The typical problem with Ayurveda for a very long period of time was heavy metals, which would see their effect in the late 50s when the kidney and liver have failed. And the doctor said, hey, you've been taking Ayurveda for so long from XYZ brand and you did not even know that you're actually having lead, arsenic, and cadmium in your body every day. So for us, really what goes in the body as an active ingredient is as important as what goes in the body as a passive inert ingredient. And then thereafter, how you really do your go to market strategy, because we have seen different playbooks. Traya is more D2C and they have done a commendable job, staying true to their cause. We've also seen people, building products through doctors where doctors are not their own payroll, right? And it's a great channel. US Thorn has built that business very well, where 70% of the revenue comes from doctors. It's a nutraceutical supplement, but 70% prescriptions are generated by doctors, and it's very difficult to dislodge it, and it's very difficult to create that image, right? So I think from our perspective, product market fit is more fundamental view of the business than a relative view of the business, and it's largely driven by, have you shown efficacy in your cohort as you stand today, and are people using your product, and once they achieve their purpose, are they falling off as well, right? It's from our perspective, it's important that you only consume what you need, right? And then can you mine more, really, and can you address more needs, taking care of the goodwill that you have created.
No, thanks, Rahul. I think, efficacy and of course GTM and go to market always remains the key to build a large company. But let me pick up one aspect of it and maybe put that question back to Shivam. I think so when we talk about efficacy, right? And some businesses like Traya, you can see efficacy by your hair growing back, right? But in a lot of cases, you don't see efficacy felt in your body anymore. Now, Shivam, the question to you is that in, let's say, in a nutraceutical business, you have different products, omega, magnesium, energy related. How would you communicate efficacy to the consumer, right? So are there clinical trials, and therefore what is the role of deep R&D and deep research in some of these products where you can claim it's a patent? If you can throw some light on that aspect of how do you showcase efficacy.
Sure. So before I answer your question, I just want to add one point. So Rahul has, he beautifully explained all of these hurdles that, products have in such a wide market. Do they have standardization? Do they have heavy metals? And I'm really happy to know that he's been our customer for the past 1 year. He's gone from one product to three products. And that's where the question of, standardization and R&D comes in. So I don't know about how other companies are doing in the Nutra space, but I can tell you about Ace Blend. We stay away from gray areas, right? So when we build a product, we build it backward. We build it from clinical intent to product, not forward, which is marketing driven and what are the current trends, right? Because I think a product in the Nutra space needs to work like a precision tool. And for that, R&D cannot be just a checkbox. It has to be the engine, really, right? You have to be obsessed with working with incredible partners. You have to be obsessed with bioavailability, synergy of ingredients, how they all work together. What's the theory behind it? Are the ingredients in correct format, in correct dosage? And clinical validation, I think, is not just a stamp of approval. I think it's a sign of proof that the company that you're consuming in terms of the supplements respects your body biology and your beliefs. That's where the narrative is going with the importance of R&D, I feel. So it is truly important, and standardization is extraordinarily important in the larger narrative.
But if I have a double click on that, so I think what you mentioned is very very true as a business. Like, but to what extent you think consumer really understand that? Like how? So is it very easy to explain what you mentioned to a consumer?
So I feel even if it's a difficult topic that you're addressing, if you're doing the work, there is nothing more powerful than collective intelligence of the entire audience, right? They're way smarter than any one individual can be. And eventually that does resonate. It does come across, it seeps through the creeks, it reaches the right audience, they become your KOLs, you suddenly see orders getting repeated, customers being retained. All the work you do does not go unnoticed by a very large consciousness of the entire audience that you're catering to. So that's a very powerful force that validates your products and your brand in the long run. So no matter how difficult the narrative, if you address it, it'll come through.
I think one of the most difficult products that they sell where efficacy proving is difficult is curcumin. Uh, yeah, but I think more than that, so allergy and antihistamine usage in India is just going up with all our cities becoming much more infrastructure heavy and all the construction around, pollution around, right? But nobody spoke about the fact that if you pop curcumin but without MCT oil in it, it doesn't get absorbed in the body, because if you're following a low fat diet, you need fat out of the in the body to absorb that curcumin. Unfortunately, none of the curcumin sellers in India, other brands, talk about it at all, and not even in the US. So when I and Sev and Shivam were talking, we started talking about efficacy, and then we started talking about MCT oil, and it's like, yes, this is what made the difference. It's relatively simpler to understand once you understand it, but it just makes a ton of difference when it comes to efficacy and the perception of it. I mean, I can give my example that I used to pop Allegra and sometimes levocetirizine on the same day for 2 days in the house. I've not taken it for like 6 months at a stretch. So I think that perception, while you can't do clinical trial, maybe you can do a long-term clinical trial with sample set, but once a customer takes for 15 days, I think customer will probably give 15 days to you because they'll buy 15 days worth of stuff, right? It's not a 1 day packet any which ways. In these 15 days, if they can't see the effect, then I think the next 15 days are difficult to convince for a customer.
That's a great point, Rahul, and I think a very apt time to go back to Saloni on this aspect, right? Where it takes time for hair to for Traya to work, right? So trust building always is the fundamental bedrock of any health business, right? As we talked about efficacy, so efficacy demonstrated many times equal to trust. So if you can share some insights and learning from how at Traya you would build that trust. What are the mechanisms of building trust, and how technology has played a role in that?
Sure. I think to begin with, it's as simple as just be honest. If you stop thinking like a marketer and stop tracking revenue and growth and move your North Star metric as an org to something else, for us at Traya was of the people who start the treatment, how many see visible results. The moment you move your North Star metric, it gets easier to be honest. So for us, for example, we realized the best thing is to set the right expectation. So we were one of the first hair brands in the country to start saying from the first set of advertisement that it will take 5 months to grow hair with Raya. In an industry where you have 10-day oils, 28-day serums, we were the first brand to do that. If you are an advanced case of hair loss and you come on the Traya app or website and take our hair diagnosis, the website will tell you, sorry, it's too late. We cannot let you buy Traya because we cannot help you. Consumers love honesty. I know people who recommend Traya to their nephews because they are stage 6 and they said, hey, the website didn't let me buy, but I want you to buy because you're still, there's time for you to get this hair back. So it's as simple as that. Now, during the journey, how do you really continue to deliver this honesty even after they, come on board? So at Traya, we have serious health markers across the month till you reach the baby hair regrowth stage, right? So you start seeing improvement in your energy, your sleep, your gut. These are few things we work while we are working on a hair treatment. So the fact that the consumer is educated, knows what to expect, and also knows that it's not a brand that's selling some products and saying goodbye, but there's a high touch model where there are doctors and hair coaches and they're all a button click away. They're here, there to listen. It creates trust. Now, we serve about 10 lakh Indians with just about 100 dermatologists on board. And the only way we could scale this is through tech. So at core of everything is technology that tells us which consumer needs a phone call today, which consumer needs a tweak in the treatment. There are consumers to whom we don't call at all because our data science says that they are going to retain, and there are consumers that need 3 calls in a month because our data science says that's the only reason why they will move to the next month. So they need 3 phone call conversations. And so at core is data and tech that really drives this engagement of retention to get people to the finish line.
And that is so true for many businesses today. That how do you use data science to understand consumer behavior and then using that to build. That's quite interesting. Let me come back to you, Rahul. Now you've talked about how the product market fit for health businesses is. Now, if you see a lot of the businesses which are built online, at some point of time may have to go offline, right? And as you rightly said, it's not limited to tier one, tier city. India is geographically wide, but it's also demographically very wide, right? So what do you think that from us for scale, and we're talking about companies scaling from let's say $100 million to $500 million, what is the role of offline, right? And how do healthcare and health solution and Nutra businesses then emerge to be large player? And we'll come to something like quick commerce in a while, in a bit, on how quick commerce is disrupting, the distribution channel. But as an investor seeing large health businesses, what do you think is the role of offline, online, omni-channel channels play a role?
I think specifically in nutraceuticals, if customer is taking a call on by his own or by her own without the involvement of the family physician, you really don't need offline. Technically, you need offline in case you want to create a higher bar of credibility by reaching out to the KOL doctors and create credibility in their mind and start generating prescription from there. One company that has done tremendously well on that front is SEBAMED. It started through engaging pediatricians. It was a no-name brand in India, only 5-year-old brand, very expensive product, very little discounting, very high repeats. All of that happening online is really happened because they engaged doctors offline first. But then the entire flywheel effect took care of everything else thereafter. So I think from our perspective, the fact that Traya at a centralized level has become that big, despite solving a longish problem, despite all the negative marketing around other gimmicks that happen, it's a proof point of itself that you don't require really offline. But if at all, yes, we do see that there is a merit in engaging with doctors. All the high quality nutraceutical brands are largely in the pharma stable today, right? But there is a scope for certain companies to really engage doctors, whether it's pediatricians or gastroenterologists or let's say gynacs, to start mining the customer and mining the doctor and really build credibility. If you are able to do it, then I think it's very difficult to dislodge thereafter.
Absolutely, and omni-channel as it's called.
If you're able to do offline, then I think all the channels are by themselves will work for you in some way or the other.
Correct. Yeah. No, absolutely. In fact, we have another company in our portfolio which is solving for sexual health for men in remote parts of India and totally digitally in vernacular language, right? And when you add a clinic to the whole brand in that location, it changes the way adoption happens. So very fascinating. So let me start towards wrapping up this session, and maybe if there are questions from the audience, we can take few of them. But if you have to see what we discussed today in terms of the opportunity, the way of building, the role of R&D, tech, so it seems that a lot of things are coming together, right? But we are still, I'd say, is at what we call the tip of the iceberg, right? So if I have to ask each of you that how do you see this industry 5 years from now, India at 2030, right? If you have to put your let's say two lines on where do you see consumer health nutraceutical in this whole industry in 2030, where it would be? Maybe you can start.
I don't know where I can give a number, but I think this is one industry that will, surpass the growth of all the other sub-industries that we have in consumer space. Uh, Purely because I think we are all becoming time starved as we with each passing day. Some of us more than some of others, but and that is causing a very cascading effects on the body. And I think the genuineness of the brands and the awareness in the mind of people to solve them are really leading the efforts on industry to grow. It's I mean, irony of the situation is we have many more good quality nutraceutical ingredients companies than brands in India. Right? They all started with serving the US market, which is high quality, very demanding market. But I think the customer in India, at least some strata which can pay, is going to be equally demanding, and you will need some brands who will cater to that customer. So I believe that market is going to grow at least 30, 40, 50% depending on subsector.
I think it's going to sound repetitive, but unfortunately, we're getting all of these health issues sooner than later. Average age of a Traya hair loss customer is 27-year-old boy, and they are balding at 27, which was not happening a generation ago. At the same time, we're all, as a nation, have the time and money to start thinking about more than just ghar, shelter, pani, makan, whatever, right? Like, we're now all consuming health content. I see my lift man watching health content on YouTube and home remedy to lose weight on YouTube, right? So he cannot afford a product, but he's consuming health content and he wants to be healthier. Which tells me that the nation is moving in that direction. So I think what he says makes complete sense. And I'm a founder. We are optimistic. We're supposed to be optimistic. So
So I think one big change will be the perception of Indian supplements in people's eyes. Right now, that niche user really looks up to the US, but that perception will change very, very fast. And another thing is, I think we'll break the ceiling of doctor dependency when it comes to lifestyle supplements. It'll be something that you'll be comfortable enough because of enough research around you and enough conversation around you to embrace that into your life. So that'll be a very big jump.
Actually, build India to the world, supplements. Wonderful. No, absolutely. I mean, that's all we had within the session. I think we covered about the opportunity, how do we build, role of tech, R&D, and of course, eventually at the end of the day, there is enough capital, as we see, whether it's early stage or late stage, to bolster this industry. So very, very exciting times ahead, and we all believe that this is a very, very large, undisrupted industry, and this is the right time and right place to build that. So thank you all of you for contributing wonderfully to this session. If any of you have any questions, we're happy to take few of them here. I don't know how much time is left, but there's no clock, so we can keep going on, but yeah.
Is it really safe to get? Does body really need so many external nutrients, right? And are they really safe? So while we spoke about eventually we moving to directly purchasing these products without doctor recommendations, I'm unsure if is that really going to be safe enough, because do we really have so much of clinical data published around these kind of combination products or nutraceuticals? Because there's a lot of mixture and mixing around different products, but is there a clinical safety around these composition and end products available for the consumers to use them? That's my question.
Got it. Okay. So that's a bunch of questions, right? So we'll go one by one. So in terms of lifestyle, right? Supplements for lifestyle. If someone after having a lunch feels foggy in the mind because their pattern is of high carbohydrate, and if they inherently feel that, okay, this is something that is disrupting the way I function post lunch, you'll be surprised what a cognitive enhancer can really do without any kind of side effects, right? Because firstly, it's nature derived. It's like the perception is, I don't want you to think of it as a medicine. It's like a really extracted form of a very curated salad that only works for your mind, right? Similarly, if you're getting cramps, right? A very simple solution for that is visceral hydration, right? Which can do you no harm. So the kind of supplements that I'm talking about, which can be easily involved in a person's life, is when they are dealing with problems that are very evident in their life. Focus, immunity, I'm falling sick every week. Or like Rahul said, I get allergic reactions. And a very simple search will guide you to maybe a KOL talking about the effects of curcumin. And then you need to find a brand that is very, very dependent on R&D. So that's the catch right now, right? Saying how do you disseminate which is a product that really invests its money and time into a clean supply chain. That's where branding comes out then. You know what I mean? But if you're talking about the gym goer who's bursting with muscles and loading themselves with many things that are synthetic in nature, that's a different narrative. You know what I mean? So it's not like the youth are overdosing themselves with supplements. It's more like, okay, I feel something can get better in my life because of the way my day is functioning, and these natural extracts can help improve that aspect. And yes, there is enough clinical data in terms of specific lifestyle areas that are backed with ingredients that are completely safe with very high toxicity levels, which you will never reach through unless you finish the whole bottle of supplements, like, in not the right format.
And your experience is that these youngsters, or what is your target market? I mean, which type of consumers are you encountering?
So our focus target market is 25 to 35. That's the audience we talk to as precisely as possible. But there is a large amount of audience that are under that age group and over that age group that come because of this active age group becoming KOLs in the market.
Thank you so much, Shiva.
Most welcome.
Great. Thank you so much again, and thanks for the opportunity again. Thank you all.